Hey everyone, welcome to Pickleball and Beyond. My name's Ryan.
My name is Vino.
And today we are looking at the Standout CF3 16mm Control Paddle. So we reviewed the original CF3 that came out by Standout.
The CF3 16.
Yes.
Now they call that the CF3 16 Power. So this is the same thing. CF3 16, they're calling it the Control. Remember, we also had one, the CF3 14mm, right, which is still the 14mm. We thought that'll become a little bit more power, but surprisingly, the CF3 16 Power is still one of like the more power-oriented pop kind of paddles, which almost kind of took over like the king position of paddles from the double black diamond, get what I mean? So they have come up with the Control paddle. We put the specs on it. The dimensions are very similar or exact to the CF3 16. So go check that review out. So this is more like a complimentary review to that. We have been playing with this for some time.
Yeah, we've had this for a very long time.
Yes, and
actually,
we didn't know like how are they going to name it or whatever. So finally they've released it. It's for $170. So same as the other one. Use our code, you get a discount as well. What's the difference?
I mean, what's funny is we used this before they made that name change on it. And we couldn't have agreed more. We're like, this has way less power and is way easier to control the ball, right? As much as I loved the CF3 16mm, like the power one when that came out, that became an issue where it was a little difficult for me to control, especially when balls were coming in with pace at me. I could not defend those balls. I was just popping them too high, making mistakes. I couldn't hit my drop shots consistently. And I think that's where this was a fix for it, right? I think if you are a super high level player and you can handle that, I think that might be a better paddle for you. But I think for the vast majority, it was a little too much pop for a lot of people to handle.
And like when you said way less power, I want to kind of put it in context. The reason being that CF3 16 was like, you know, you had an accelerator, you touched it, it just blasted off. Get what I mean?
No matter how you hit the ball.
Exactly. I mean, it had a ton of power. I mean, this still has power, don't get me wrong, but it's so much better as far as the control goes. And also, I think the difference for me also was the surface on this feels a little different, where I felt I got a little bit more even spin, and it might be because of the dwell or whatever, right? On this than the CF3. Mind you, the CF3 16, the power, already had good spin. Let's take this as a paddle on its own. Let's walk through our stations. Kitchen. Control, dinking, how do you like that? Yeah,
again, it did a really good job. It had that perfect mix of like dwell on it, where you could place your dinks perfectly, and like you already touched on, applying that spin to it. You can't ask for a lot more from the kitchen line. It really felt nice. And I like that when you're hitting more aggressive dinks, it still did a really good job with that as well.
And like, so when you played from the baseline and your third shots and stuff like that, how did that feel?
Also felt great, right?
So here's the question. Would you then call this a control paddle all around or a power paddle?
So I still would call it an all-around paddle just because it has enough power to get up to that.
And I think that's why I want to kind of, you know, call that out there, right? Yes, it has really nice control, but still we feel it's an all-around paddle because it delivers on the other side as well. So touch a little bit on your drives and your resets and stuff like that.
One thing I really liked about the drives on this is, again, it's not nearly as much power as we talked about as the CF3 16 power. But when it travels that little bit slower and with that little extra spin, you can get that ball to drop a little lower, which is actually really, honestly, a pro. I remember hitting some drives with this crazy topspin and getting it, I always say the phrase, getting it like below their knees, but this delivered on that, right? And it still came with like a average amount of pace on the ball, which is a term I'd use to describe it. And then the pop again was just like, it was like standard. So both of the powers on these are like, the power characteristics were pretty neutral. but the control on it again really is what stood out, but it wasn't enough to call it a control paddle. So it's like a nice all-around paddle, but it just shines in that control department a little extra.
And it's funny you should kind of mention that in like part of the maneuverability at this thing as well. The CF3 16 power, same dimensions, come at around 118 swing weight, twist weight around 6.3. This, same dimensions, almost identical weight, comes at around 113, 112 with a 6.5.
Yep.
So this is suddenly becoming extremely maneuverable.
Yeah.
Get what I mean?
It is easier to maneuver at the kitchen, right? It is a little faster in your hands, I will say. So if you get into a hands battle, you're going to be a little faster with this.
Usually if it's the same weight and it's the difference about 5, 6 as far as swing weight, you kind of feel that difference, and I think we kind of
It's actually
that.
enough to feel the difference.
Again, who do you think this paddle will work for?
This is a paddle that, again, it's a really good fitting for almost everyone, right? Unless you're looking for something that's for an absolute banger, then I'd stay away from it. But I think, like I said at the very start of the video, I think it fits a larger audience than the original CF3, right? I think for anyone that's beginners to, honestly, even like some of the best players in the world would still love this paddle. But I think if you have the ability to play with a paddle that offers less control, like the power version, and you can still hone that in, that'll probably be a better paddle for you. But I think for the vast majority of players, under 4 or 5, honestly, should be sticking with this guy.
And I think for me to just sum that up, if that was made for the pro, they took a pro paddle and made it for your middle niche. You've got a nice paddle. Again, it comes in a nice color. It comes in this purple. You have the red as well. They've now come up with some nice bags as well. Standout is definitely a standout paddle company. Check them out. You want to try it, reach out to us. We love people trying paddles. Please subscribe. Please comment. We love hearing from you. Hope to see you in another paddle review.